Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. I am so happy that you've decided to tune in today because I am here with Christine Pittman, who is the founder of COOKTheSTOry. Hello, Christine. How are you?
Hi, Wendy. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Of course. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. And Christine and I are going to talk about three different ways that we both recognize how it is that our divorce improved our lives as well as our children's for the better. So before we dive in today, I'm going to share a little bit more with our audience about you, Christine. So as I said, Christine is the founder of COOKTheSTOry, where her passion is to create recipes that take less time in the kitchen, giving you more time at the table. And Christine's love for cooking started early, watching and listening to her mom and her grandmother in the kitchen and working in her parents' restaurants starting at the very young age of 12. But before launching her lucrative food blog and business, Christine was doing something entirely different. So 10 years ago, Christine was on maternity leave from a PhD program when her family relocated from Canada to Orlando. Being in a new country and armed with a master's degree in linguistics, as well as a new baby, Christine struggled to find a job opportunity that matched her skill set. And while she figured out what to do with her life, she decided to start a food blog. And since then, what originally started as a hobby has turned into one of the top ranked food blogs in the world, with more than 2 million monthly readers. So, Christine, what an amazing story. And food is one of my top passions for sure.
Yeah.
And I know that you also have your own personal story as it relates to your own experience of divorce. So I would love for you to share with our audience today what it was that inspired you to not only be on this podcast, but to share your wisdom and how that has influenced the business that you've created.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think before getting divorced, I thought getting divorced would be the end of the world and a disaster and horrible. And I would be just in this horrible position. And it hasn't been easy and there have been a lot of struggles. But what I now see looking back over that time and who I am now is that I am much happier. I'm much more in control of my life. I know myself better. I know what I want. So in terms of just like personal issues, it was not the disaster that I thought it was going to be, and has actually really helped center me and help me figure out who I am. In terms of my business, I'd been blogging and it had been growing in success over the years, but my husband had a great career and was making a lot of money, and it was never required that I bring in this income. And so having that moment of like, oh shoot, I need to make this work. I need to make the money and really focus on it became, the sites grew, my business grew. I have a team now working for me, and like all of that happened out of that necessity and realizing that I could do it. Like, oh no, I've got to do this. This is scary. Okay, I have to do this. And now I'm at this place of, oh, I can do this. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm delighted to be here.
Me too. And what I love about your story that I think is so relatable as well to so many people who are listening is the fact that, you know, your husband at the time was bringing in, right, the majority of the income. And so for you, it was really a matter of, well, how do I convert my passion into a business, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, so many people don't understand that that is possible, that it is something that you get to do. And, you know, I know that the topic today is really about how divorce improved us. So I almost feel like what I'm hearing you say too, is that it enabled you to kind of expand your mindset into the realm of possibility. Whereas before you were kind of stuck in this place of, well, this little box fits really nicely and I'm just going to stay here. And it really wasn't until you were pushed out of the box, right? The comfort zone that so many of us get accustomed to, the warm fuzziness of it, almost like a warm blanket, that we really are kind of pushed out of our comfort zone. But yet, you know, at the same time, looking back has created so much opportunity. So what would you say is one of the things that really opened you up, that really created that first opportunity for you to think outside of the box about what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think Well, a huge part of it was that I was running the blog or blogs. There were two sites then and now. And my main responsibility was the kids in the house, kids
Mhm.
in the home. And that realization early on that I couldn't, raising kids, even if they're at school all day, is still a huge amount of time and a huge job. And so that was when I really started hiring people more, little contract things, but in the home too. I now have a personal assistant for the house stuff who keeps me on track. She works a few hours a week, keeping us on track of a whole bunch of that sort of thing. So realizing that me as an individual I have the potential to do all of these things, but I don't have the time. And when you don't have two people, you're a single family, single adult household, you can't do it. So I think that was like a huge breakthrough moment for me was
Yeah.
I have to do this myself now, but I can't do it myself now.
Right.
So how do
Right.
we find that other thing? And I think that's where the business really started to grow more. And I think also in terms of like confidence and things like that,
Mhm.
having people that I'm managing, and I have to really have a good sense of my priorities and what I want done so that I can convey that to somebody else and make sure that they're doing them. So I think both of the confidence that came from that and then that realization that I was responsible for all this stuff, but I couldn't do it by myself, and figuring that out. Those were some of the big things that turned everything around.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this before we hit record is that, one of the things that I think you and I have learned to navigate as entrepreneurs as well is really maximizing our me time, right? And it doesn't just mean that when our kids are here that we're not still working on our businesses, right? As you so eloquently said, you ask for help when you need help, but at the same time, you have all this other free time. Christine has two kids, and again, I don't want to take your story away, but she does have time where she doesn't have her children. And so how have you grown to appreciate and enjoy that me time? Because I know so many of us struggle, right? I remember, oh my God, I remember when I realized we were sharing custody, I was like, I can't even fathom not tucking my kids in every night to bed. And coming to a place today where, like, for example, today is my change of custody day. And I am like, so excited because I'm like, I get to double down on my business. I get to take care of me. I've got a manicure later. I'm going to record some other podcast episodes. I'm going to get some content driven. I've got plans tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
how have you learned to really embrace that me time?
Yeah, I think at first it was a struggle, and there's lots of guilt and things that are going
Of
on with all of
course.
this. But what I hadn't realized, and maybe this is obvious to everybody else on the planet and just not to me, but when you become a parent, they are your responsibility 24/7. And if job in our home, that meant that they were on my mind all the time, and every decision was influenced in some way by them. And so when I had the first week, I mean, we did it sort of gradually. It was like 3 days and then 4 days and then eventually a week off and week on. I had that first full week. I mean, I think I just sat there and stared at the wall for a little while, like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah,
But
I
then that
cried.
yeah, the realization, like, I can book a vacation for some of those days, and it can be
Yeah.
something that just I want to do. Or if I'm going out with friends and we're staying later, I'm not messaging a babysitter or somebody to be like, oh, I'm going to be late. This is up to me, and nothing else is involved. And I feel like a college student sometimes in those weeks, like but in that, like, rediscovering myself and what I want to
Yeah.
do with that time. And that has been the most energizing and centering. And I again, I maybe this is obvious to everybody else on the planet that when you're a parent, they consume all of your time, but it happens sort of gradually. You're pregnant, and then you have the babies, and then there's two of them, and it's happening. And it's not until I had that break for several days that I saw just how many of my decisions and everything about my day was planned. So I think
Yeah.
that's been the hugest thing for me, is rediscovering what I want to do with my time. Um, the rediscovering that mental freedom when you're
Mhm.
not having to worry about somebody else, even when they're not with you. I think those were the biggest things for me.
Yeah, and what I'm also hearing you say is, I don't know about you, and I don't want to assume this, but I could never get away. I worked full time and we had a nanny and I worked in corporate. I was always the first one home.
Mhm.
And I was my now ex-husband he worked a lot, he worked later. And I always felt guilty having to hire somebody to come and watch the kids if I wanted to go, to happy hour with my colleagues after
Mhm.
work or really to do anything. And even though you have guilt with the kids not being with you at the same time, like I actually don't have any guilt anymore about taking time for me. And that also includes when I have my kids. Like my boys know, like on the weekends I have them, like I still get to go do my workout. Yes, they're
Mhm.
here, but mom still gets to work out. Or, I have errands to run. Well, you guys can choose to come or you can choose to not, but shit's got to get done. So I'm heading out and running errands and I'm not going to feel guilty about doing for me, or if I have things that I get to do. I feel like divorce has removed the mom guilt, in a really big way. It doesn't mean, and something else that you said, Christine, that I also want to say is that just because your kids are not living under your roof, it doesn't mean that you're not a parent anymore, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It just means that physically they're not here, which means that you have flexibility in time. Like there's my kids still call me when they're at their dad's and they're asking me questions and they're, can you do this? Or, can you make sure that this is at the house when I get back? And it's like, sure, I'm always a parent. However, I get to fit their needs when they're not with me around my schedule
Mhm.
instead of when they're here, right?
Yeah, I think a great example from my current day to day, for instance,
Yes.
I don't have my kids right now, and I didn't have them this weekend. They went to their dad's on Friday. There's no food in the house right now. There's a little bit of leftover quinoa from last night and nothing else. I'm gonna have to head to the grocery store or something today, but it doesn't matter when. I'm not, and if I don't, and if I end up having, toast with cheese on it for dinner,
Mhm.
which of course is fine to give my kids, but it doesn't matter in the same way. I feel
Yeah.
like I can finish my work day, run to the grocery store, go do something else, come back here, and there's not all of these like time constraints. I worry about my own health. I don't want to just have cheese on toast for dinner.
Right.
I'll probably have something else with it, but it doesn't feel as pressury when it's just me, and that
Right.
that space to make those decisions is easier. But like you said, I am worried about their health and what they're eating. I do wonder what they're having at their dad's, and I hope it's good, but it's not falling on me right
Right.
now to fit that into my schedule and my day and my responsibility.
Yes, 100%. I think that lends itself to like the next question I wanted to ask you, which you teed both of us up for beautifully, is a big piece of what I think divorce has improved upon for me as a person is really learning how to focus on the things that I do have control over, and to stop wasting so much energy trying to control the things that I don't. And one of those things does have to do with the diet and the health, the food that they're eating when they are at their dad's.
Mhm.
So how has that impacted you if you had a similar experience?
Yeah, yeah. This has been, I mean, I do have some controlling aspects of my personality. And because my career is involved in food, it is a lot about that. And when we were first split up, it bugged me. I can't even tell you how much, like to the depths of my core, to find out that my ex was sending Lunchables with the kids for lunch every day. And sometimes they were asking me for them. They're like, hey, can we have those chicken nugget Lunchables this week that were with you? And I just feel like, no, I'm not buying those. And it bothered me that they were having them. And now I am at a place where their tastes have changed. Lots of things have changed. I am happy that they are getting a lunch. I'm happy that it is something they're going to eat that's going to fuel their afternoon. And it can't matter to me what it is. And I would even say that is where I came to maybe a year ago. I got to that place. Now I'm in another realm of that, where I also probably think it's good for them to see different adults having different priorities in anything. In this case, we're talking about feeding ourselves, but like different priorities, convenience and enough food and something my kid will eat for sure is the priority over there. For me, it's, is there a variety of foods, and is there enough vegetable and fruit? Like, so we have different priorities, and it's probably really good for them to see those enacted and not think it has to be a certain one way. There's
Right.
other ways, other goals, other things trying to be accomplished. So yeah, I went from I can't believe this is happening to okay, fine, you do it different than I do it, that's fine, to like, oh, maybe it's great for them to see that it can be done differently and that
Right.
there are different styles of doing
Right.
this. Maybe that will make them better people. So that's the trajectory there.
Well, and I'm curious to know, like, do your kids like to cook with you? Have they developed a flavor for that?
Not super much. I feel like I was starting to get them into the kitchen a little bit more before the pandemic hit. And then
Mhm.
we were homeschooling them through the pandemic. So they're 1 week homeschooling with me and then 1 week homeschooling with their dad. And I needed the cooking time as like my decompression at the end of the
Right.
day. I found it really intense to be, as so many of us did, trying to work and school the kids
Yes.
and spending so much time. I mean, I have a budding teenager. He turned 13 in this year. There were lots of struggles and issues there. And so the adding the struggle of, and now you're going to help me make dinner, that kind of had to go
Right.
away. My daughter, on the other hand, she's 9. She does some baking. I don't have a sweet tooth, so she's kind of on her own trajectory with that. I do want to start getting them into the kitchen more, but I'm not stressing about it right now. I feel like there's a lot going on for everyone,
Yeah.
and that's one less thing I need to push on.
Yeah. And I mean, I also find that, there's conversations where they're like, well, I just had this at dad's, like, why can't I have this here? Or it's, I've got the meals planned. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we just ate this at dad's last night, and it's
Mm,
like, well, that's too bad. Dad doesn't cook the same way that I do. But,
mhm.
I think that there's also, a little bit of an art of compromise that we get to learn too, right? We talked about this too. And one of the ways that I've actually, probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my divorce is the art of compromise. I was in a marriage where I lived to be the person that everyone saw me to be. It wasn't who I was really at my core. And it wasn't until I got divorced where I went, oh, wait a second. That is not me, or I don't
Mhm.
like that. And I know I shared this example with you, and those of you listening, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, I've said this before too, which is that I remember the first birthday after we separated, and my parents wanted to take me out to dinner, and they asked, like, where do you want to go? Let's make a reservation at your favorite restaurant. I had no idea what that was. And so part of what I have had to learn, and this also involves my kids, is really learning how to honor my identity, to honor my likes and dislikes,
Mhm.
and at the same time understand how to navigate what compromise gets to look like. And part of that also has to do with, it's with our kids, it's with our former spouses, it's with our friends. So how have you navigated that, and what have you learned from it?
Oh, wow. This is several podcasts
I know,
worth
I
of
was going to say,
thinking
how
this.
much time do we have left?
I feel your restaurant story resonates with me so much because very shortly after we split up, my ex had the kids, and I went to visit a friend in DC, and she was working, and she said, let's just order pizza tonight, but I want to have pizza leftovers for work after you're gone. So you choose pizza for you, I'll choose pizza for me. And then I know that I've got mine and you have yours. I was like, okay, cool. She says, what do you want on your pizza? And I said, I have no idea.
Mm.
And I just had not ordered pizza for myself in years. And the funny thing was, I will tell you, I ended up ordering mushrooms on that pizza. And even that was I think I got sausage, pepperoni, it doesn't matter. But mushrooms are one of the toppings. I didn't really want mushrooms, but my kids don't like mushrooms. And so there was also this like, ooh, I'm going to get the thing I can't have when they're around just because I can, not even because I want to. So even in the trying to figure out my likes and dislikes, the what can I have because they're not here, like that was still a factor in that decision.
Yeah.
And then figuring out like, what do I actually like on pizza? What do I, on the nights when I'm home alone, my boyfriend's not here, the kids aren't here, what do I want to eat? I don't always know. Like, it's such a strange when I don't have the health concerns of my kids and their likes and dislikes and somebody else's likes and dislikes and time and all these factors to help narrow it down, I can have anything I want. Oh, well, it might just be toast with cheese again. Like I don't know. And so that's been interesting learning about myself. In terms of the compromise, I feel like the thing that I've learned most is how much I was compromising before.
Mhm.
And right now I'm in a place where I don't like to compromise very much. Certainly not in my own space with my own time with my own food. I think I feel like I've been slowly decorating my spaces to really reflect what I like, and having to really figuring out what to put on my walls is like, wait, do I love this? Why is this thing on my wall? It's been here for 15 years. Wait, we got that at Target because we couldn't decide on any actual art that we really loved. And so we just put something on the wall. Like that's how that ended up there. And so learning like, wow, so many of the things about my life came to be that way because of a compromise. And to the point where I don't know what is me and what was him and what was the compromise anymore. And learning that, I don't know that I've learned how to compromise in my new self, but I've learned what I don't want to compromise on, and what
Yeah.
I like. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that, it's kind of like that continuous dance that that we're constantly learning. I also think that compromise looks differently with everybody in our life. The way that I compromise with my children looks very different from the way that I compromise with my parents, way I look, I compromise with my friends, with my boyfriend. But I think one of the things that divorce taught me was that it is a possibility, and compromise doesn't mean caving in. It doesn't mean giving up what's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
It means being able to really voice what feels right to me, and then engaging in dialogue around what is going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes so much sense. And I feel like, I think that back then, compromise always in my head meant we both have to come to an agreement that we're both okay with. And learning that, like you said, it's different with different people in different situations, but that doesn't have to be the only solution. The compromise can be, I'm not going to be happy with this time, but you love it, so you have it. And I don't think I knew to fight for those things for myself. Like I was always seeking harmonious agreement and not realizing that sometimes it can be harmonious disagreement and that we can move forward there. So bringing that into my relationships now has been huge.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too that I also think I've also had to learn with my kids is that, we used to watch, and I'm going to be very transparent with my audience today. Like, we used to let the kids watch TV while we ate dinner, and there was a lack of connection that was happening around the dinner table on the weekends, because my now ex-husband worked late. The kids ate before we did. He and I ate afterwards. Then on the weekends, even one of the things I compromised on was allowing that behavior. And one of the things that I'm really adamant about now is that there is no TV at the dinner table, because what I have found is that I get to use that time with my kids to connect with them, to talk about their days. How have you seen that? How do you, how do you see food as a way to connect with your kids, and how we get to further connect with our children on our custody days?
Yeah, so actually we watch TV while we eat dinner.
No judgment. It was,
it actually, again, the pandemic thing, I feel like that the end of day thing, we'd already talked for hours. Like I talked to them so much.
right.
But
Well, you were homeschooling, so
we're homeschooling, and we haven't changed it yet. But what we choose shows that we all like, which are hard to find when it's often my boyfriend and me, and then my daughter's 9 and my son's 13, finding things that we all enjoy watching. It ends up being, I mean, we watched The Good Place together. We're watching Cobra Kai right now.
Yeah.
It's lots of things that have some really nice messages, and we do pause and talk, and we have debates about the shows that we're watching. I'm not going to say that makes it good or bad, but I have found it very connecting. We've also recently reorganized the house so that there's a really great sitting area right at the kitchen. And the kids have been using that a lot. So even though I'm the one doing all the cooking, they're often down there, even if they've got their phone out or their headphones on, they're sitting in that same space, often talking, sometimes not. And I've been finding that to be really great. And that's all come from, I mean, when I got divorced, I thought I was gonna have to move to a smaller house because I don't know, there's something in my head that's if you're a divorced woman, you move to a smaller house. And and eventually realized that I love this place. It's a little bit big for me. It's sometimes ridiculously big when I'm by myself in this house, but it has been this time to figure out what I want the space to be and how we can use it best. And that's one of the things that's come out of this is this sitting area right on the kitchen. It used to be a big dining room table and we were never using it. It just had stuff on it. And now it's like a big couch with a coffee table and people sit and chill out there. And so doing that, wait, this space isn't getting used. How would we use it better? Oh, so we don't have the dining room table anymore. We have a pool table that has a dining room table top. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. So we weren't using it very much, the dining room table. And so I was like, wait, how can I make this into like a fun activity room? We play pool, we play ping pong, and we can eat there on those days that we're not just in front of the TV watching Cobra Kai. So
But those are some pretty great days. We watched the same. Those are so funny. Those were our two shows too, with me and my kids. I love
those
that.
are two of my favorites.
Yeah, they're so good. If you guys aren't watching them, shameless plugs right now. The Good Place and Cobra Kai are awesome.
Absolutely.
So Christine, as we come to full circle with our interview today, what else would you like to share with our audience around how you, looking back, right? Looking back, we learned so much, right? What would you say is something you wish you knew back then that you would tell that version of you, that, you know, the wisdom that you've learned, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I would tell myself that I'm going to be okay. Like there was just such a block against being able to move in this direction. And I thought it painted disaster in every area. My kids would have horrible lives. I would have no money. I would be lonely and not enjoy like all of this stuff. And none of it happened. And myself personally, it's the thing I need to always be telling myself. I always end up being okay. I'm resourceful. I'm intelligent. I'm hardworking. I have lots of privilege also that I am very grateful that I happen to have been born the way that I am in a lot of ways. I hope that's okay to say. I don't know how to say this tactfully, but like to be able to tell myself with all of that, you are going to be okay. Relax, trust yourself. That's where I would go. I would also, I feel like I want to tell myself how good some of the things can be, like that time off we were talking about. I often tell married friends, and I don't know, married people don't always like getting advice from divorced people, but the value
but let's
of that,
do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, and probably your audience is mostly divorced people, so I'm preaching to a choir, but that importance of that time off, but like the structured, you know, for sure you have it, like whether that's 1 weekend a month where you get to do whatever you want, if that's staying home and watching TV in your bedroom or going away with some friends or coming and going and running errands, like knowing that you have some chunk of time each week or month or something that is yours to do how you want. I wish that I'd had that, and I can't imagine not having it now.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to tell you, I have taught my married friends so much. There's been so much improvement in their relationships from a lot of the lessons that I learned along the way. And I always do say, I'm like, married people should listen to my podcast because there's so many great nuggets that, you know, again, like you don't necessarily understand. Like, I wish I knew so many other things than I did. And it's not because, you know, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I regret being where I'm at. It's more just, this was my path. This was the path that I got to take to be able to stand here today and say, oh, okay, now I know what I get to do differently next time. And if that's a gift for our married friends, then by all means, take the lesson and let me be the example for them. Christine, thank you so much for being my guest today. And I would love for you to share with our audience where it is that they can find you and get some of your incredible, delicious recipes.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. This has been a real pleasure. My website is cookthestory.com, and Cook the Story is my social media handle too. So I'm not on TikTok. My daughter's trying to convince me I'm not on TikTok, but anywhere else is Cook the Story. You could find me. Yeah, and then my other site is The Cookful, TheCookful. That has a lot of contributors, and it's not just me, but I am the editor in chief of that site. And so there's lots of great recipes on there as well.
Amazing. Well, you guys, all of Christine's contact information can be found in the show notes. So be sure to click on those URLs and visit Christine's site. She's got some incredible recipes. I'm actually tapping into your Labor Day. We're recording right before Labor Day. So I'm tapping into some of those recipes of yours for this weekend, because of course we're doing a fun little barbecue. So
Nice.
thank you so much for being my guest today. And everybody who tuned in today, thank you so much for giving us your time. And I always try to strive that each one of these interviews provides you guys with a little bit, a small little nugget of information, if not more, to help you navigate wherever it is that you are in your process. And most importantly, for you to know that you are not alone wherever it is that you are. Sending you all tons of love, light, and joy as always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.